What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Northy33 and welcome to an ESO video. Now, I haven't done one of these in quite some time, and I have been doing a few new characters or just doing their abilities better on the Elder Scrolls in the last couple of months. So like I do usually, I make a series of my characters and I like to keep you guys up to date with what I've done to my characters to make them better. Now this character here you can see on the screen right now is my tank. Now this tank is a fantastic dungeon tank and great all-round PVE player. I mean, you can take him into PvP, but you'd probably have to change a few of the skills up and possibly some of the armour just to make sure you can actually completely use him in PvP. But this is an amazing tank for PvE. So if you're a tank and you want to know how to make a tank player, or you want to sort of like start from scratch with a tank, this is a good basis to go from. So as you guys can see, obviously my character is an Argonian Dragon Knight. He currently runs 561 champion points. And unbuffed, he has 38.2k health, he has 13.6k stamina, and 10.6k magicka. Now, if I completely buff myself up and put on some food, which you'll see right now, so give me 2 seconds, you'll see when I'm buffed and everything is on, my health goes to 43k health, 15k magicka, and 17.9k stamina. Spell resistance is 37.2k, physical resistance is 33.4k, and critical resistance is 1.3k. These are very good stats to have for a tank. My equipment bonus is a 5-star, obviously because I'm using a set, which I'm going to get into right now. So like I said, I'm going to talk you through my build as we go. So straight away, attribute points, I have nothing in magicka because this is not a magicka build. I have 54 points in health because as a tank, you need quite a lot of health. And stamina, I've got some 10 points in stamina just to make sure I can buff all my shields out and make sure I can sustain myself during either veteran dungeons or trials or something like that. It's very good to have some in stamina. You can take more out of health and put them into stamina if you really wanted to, but it depends on your playstyle and how your character handles itself in trials or dungeons, like I say. What we're going to talk about now is the armour. Now, I do actually have 5-piece Mark of the Pariah set and 5-piece of the Juggernaut set. Now, the Mark of the Pariah gives you maximum health, physical resistance, and spell resistance, and then the 5th piece gives you physical and spell resistance up to 10.7k based on your missing health, which is good if you're taking a lot of damage because then your physical resistance goes up incredibly a huge amount. And then the Juggernaut set, this gives you again maximum health, physical resistance, and maximum health. And then when you take damage while under 30% health, you heal for 20,000 health, and it can occur every 1 minute. And obviously, as a healer, as a tank, you do need to have some self heals on, but you also do rely on the healer that's in your group. So self healing isn't like a major factor in this because, like I say, the shields do most of the work for you, and they are very good. Like I say, I have got, most of this is in purple. I have 2 pieces that are in the higher setting you can get. And like I say, jewellery. It's basically just jewellery, armour, and actual weapons of the sets to make it the 5-piece, which is very good. And then moving on to the skills, this is the most important part. Now, I do have 2 bars. I have my main bar as a tanking bar and be able to sustain myself in dungeons, and then my second bar is an off bar for a lightning staff, and that just does area of effect. So it's good for crowd control. Once you've got them all tanked, you can use them to crowd control, but I'll get into that as we go. So as you can see on the first bar of my main, I have Ransack. Ransack is a taunt, and it gets the enemy taunting on you for 15 seconds whilst you do 3,000 physical damage. And their physical resistance is 5,000 for 12 seconds, and you also gain minor resolve, increasing your physical resistance by 1,300 for 12 seconds. So even though it's a taunt, it does do a lot of good buffs for your character whilst you're taunting. Next I have Hardened Armour. This is basically a shield, and it is very, very good. It protects you for 18% of your max health, and lasts for 3.5 seconds. Obviously, if you've got quite a good monster set on, which I'll get into in a second, then you can obviously repeat this buff as you're playing, so it doesn't actually cost too much to call in. Next we have Igneous Shield, and this is one of my main shields that I can call. I usually call this straight away and make sure I do it around a couple of people because it can actually buff your team up as well, and they get a damage shield off you when you call it in. So it absorbs 5,000 damage, and then your own damage shield absorbs 200% additional damage, and it lasts for 3 seconds. And it is a very, like I say, very good shield that I rely on quite a lot. And then going into my last couple of shields, have absorb magic, and this bolsters your defense to absorb 26,200 damage from the next spell projectile cast at you, and healing you for 17% max health. So it is a self heal as well. And then you can also block the amount of damage by 8%. And it is obviously the cost of block is reduced by 8% as well, which is very good. And then my last shield that I really have is unstoppable, and this basically intensifies your physical presence and gain major resolve and major ward, increase your physical and spell resistance by 5,000 for 23 seconds. It also grants you immunity to knockback and disabling effects for 5 seconds, which is good. And obviously, because I've got the 5-piece armour on, I also use that each piece of heavy armour worn decrease the duration of the ability by 5%, so it does actually last for longer, and it costs less to call it in. For my ultimate, I use Magma Shell. Now, this is a very good ultimate to use for a tank. This not only gives you a shield for 10.5 seconds, but it also restores health, stamina, and magicka back into your character. So if you go down to a quarter of a health, quarter of a stamina, and quarter of a magicka, you call this ultimate in and it fills you straight back up without having to worry about a healer or anything nearby. So like I say, it's very good. And it does also give your allies a damage shield for 9 seconds, and it actually shields them for 120% of their max health. So for a good 9 seconds, they do not take much damage at all. And obviously, if I call in Igneous Shield and all my other crowd control shields as well for my group, then it does actually do a lot of absorb, which is very, very good. My off tank. Now, this is, like I say, this is an off tank. The reason why I use a lightning staff is to gain some magicka back when I can't get my magma shell in, if my ultimate's running low. And obviously, if I want to crowd control, then most of the crowd control abilities are magicka based. So obviously, to call them in and then use a lightning staff to get the magicka bar back to fill is very good. So like I say, for crowd control, I use burning talons, which is like claws that come through the floor and grabs the enemy for about 4 seconds. There is also a synergy the allies can grab, and it makes the talons explode, dealing flame damage and explosion damage. I then also use Unstoppable Wall of Storms, and again this is for just area of effect as well as the talons. So I call the talons in, then I'll call Unstoppable Wall of Storms in, and it does good area of effect and crowd control damage. I use Degeneration, and this basically gives you health if the enemy dies whilst it's activated, and it also restores magicka and stamina as well, but it's mostly magicka. And then my main heals, I use Resolving Vigor, and I also use Coagulating Blood, which is very, very good. And then for my last ultimate that I use on my second bar is Ferocious Leap. I don't really do this for the damage, I do it for the damage shield afterwards, because after leaping you gain a damage shield that absorbs 123% of your max health for 6 seconds. So if I can get some damage shields in, if I'm taking a lot of damage, I get a Ferocious Leap out, do some area of effect and crowd control, and then gain a damage shield for 6 seconds. It's a very good damage shield to have. Sometimes I do mix this one up. I do sometimes change between Elemental Rage and Shatter Soul. Sometimes I go into the Werewolf or Flawless Dawnbreaker. But these are all things that sort of vary into each dungeon. And then sometimes I use Sturdy Horn, which is basically a morph of Warhorn. And that gives you magicka, health and stamina back for your group as well, which is very good. But like I say, the main ones I use are Ferocious Leap, Magma Shell, and then sometimes Shatter Soul and Pack Leader. Then lastly, I'll go into the champion points, because this is the most important part of any build. So we go into the champion. A lot of the champion points have changed recently, so what I'll do is I'll talk you through which ones I have. So basically, in the thief tree, I have nothing in the tower, and I don't think I have 26 points in Shadow Ward in the thief, in the shadow, sorry. And then in the lover, I have 56 points in tenacity, 49 points in healthy, and 56 in Mooncarth. And this is all for magicka, health, and stamina regain. You can have some in Arcanist if you really want to, if you do actually have a magicka-based tank, i.e. the Warden. That obviously that would be a good thing to have for your Warden if you have a Warden tank. But as a Dragon Knight tank, most of the things I called are stamina based, and obviously having the health regen is very good as well. And obviously if you guys want to copy this, then just make sure to hit the pause video during this video, and you can you know, have a look and see what's going on if I go too quick for you guys. Moving on to the mage trees. Now I have 44 points in Elemental Expert. Again, that's for my crowd control with the magical abilities like my Burning Talons and Unstoppable Wall of Storms. In the action orc, I have 62 points in Master at Arms. I used to have 32 points in Master at Arms and 30 points in Physical Weapon Expert. But recently, in the last patch, Physical Weapon Expert doesn't really matter anymore. So I took all the points out and put them back into Master at Arms. And this basically increases your damage done with light and heavy attacks by however many points you've got. Like I said, I've got 21.37 increased damage, which is very good to have for a tank. And then in the ritual, I have 21 in Thermitage, I have 30 in Precise Strikes, and 30 in Piercing. Obviously, Piercing goes well with Master at Arms, because for every attack you deal with your sword, you'll basically do extra damage because you've got increased physical penetration with Piercing. We then have Precise Strikes, which increases your critical strikes with stamina abilities, which is very good. And Thermitage increases your damage done with damage over time effects. And like I say, I do crowd control with my Burning Talons and Unstoppable Wall of Elements. So Thermitage is a very good one to have. Moving on to the Warrior for the last set, I have 15 points in Ironclad, I have 40 points in Spell Shield, and 40 points in Resistant. Obviously, the Ironclad reduces your damage taken against direct damage attacks. It doesn't really matter too much about how many points you have in this, but I really do them for morphs up in the top. And obviously with the damage shields on, it doesn't really matter too much anyway. Spell Shield increases your spell resistance by however many points, which is very good to have. Obviously, if you're a tank, you want to take as less spell damage as possible. And then Resistance is obviously the same thing, but critical. So if it's melee and archery attacks on you, pretty much anything that's not magicka. Moving on to the lady, we have 9 points in Hardy, we have 23 points in Elemental Defender. Elemental Defender again is mainly for magicka attacks, so anything that's flame, frost, shock and magic based, it's going to do less damage to you. Hardy reduces your damage taken from physical, poison and disease damage, so that's anything that's not magicka. Again, I've only got 9 points in this just so I can have my spell absorption, otherwise I would lose them more for that as well. Moving into the Lord, I have 60 points in Bastion. Now the reason why I only have 60 points in Bastion and nothing else is because this is the effectiveness of your damage shields. It's all very well having a tank that has a lot of damage shields on him, but if the damage shields aren't taking a lot of damage, you do need to make sure your champion points go into Bastion, because this will increase the effectiveness of those shields. Obviously, the more points you have in there, the less damage you're going to take from your damage shields whilst they're buffed, which is very, very handy. Again, like I say, in Trials and in Veteran Dungeons, Bastion is an amazing thing to have because the amount of damage you don't take is fantastic. You just see it bounce off you. Again, if you really want to, you can put some into heavy armor focus if you're wearing heavy armor. I used to, but again, where it was patched recently, it doesn't really matter anymore. So I took all the points out and literally left it in Bastion. So with the Bastion is 60 points, I get Infusion, Field Physician, Revival, and Determination in the top of the trees, which is very, very good to have. But like I say, you can mix and match these if you really wanted to and try and put a few points here, a few points there, but these are the ones I swear by. And this is probably about the 4th or 5th time I've changed my champion points, but recently he has not taken any damage. I tried Trials, absolutely fantastic. It can solo group areas in Craglorn, which is very, very good. Obviously your damage output isn't very good because you're a tank, but you can take a lot of hits, so you can obviously over a while take out a lot of people in the group areas. Now before I do actually leave this as well, I did mention that I use monster sets. Now the reason why I use monster sets is to get some of the extra morphs and extra damage. Usually if I'm crowd controlling, I'll either use Alambris, which gives you Meteor Shower and Storms. I do sometimes use the Engine Guardian, which is a very, very good one to have if you guys have got Engine Guardian. And then the other one I use is Bloodspawn. The Engine Guardian and Bloodspawn are ones I use in major tanking situations. So obviously Bloodspawn gives you extra chance for ultimate and increases your physical and spell resistance by 6,000 every 6 seconds, which is very good. The Engine Guardian restores you health, magicka and stamina depending on which one's lowest at the time. So if you're taking a lot of hits and you need a lot of resources, Engine Guardian is the one to go for. And like I say, for crowd control I'll use Alambris, or I'll go in and use Grothdar because they're area of effect, and they're very, very good. If you do also as well, because on my Warden I used to have Valkyrie Scoria on this one, just for the damage over time, my Lightning and my Talons, which is a very good one to have, but I put that on my Warden recently, which I'm going to make a video of at some point very soon for you guys. And then if you guys also want something that's going to procs on your damage shields, use Infernal Guardian, because this will send 3 mortars out for every shield you call in every 6 seconds, I think it is. And they'll fire mortars from your character to the furthest enemy away from you. And if you're in group situations and you need something that's going to do a bit more damage whilst you're putting your shields out, then Infernal Guardian is the one to use. So obviously the spell resistance and stuff is lower than what most things would be, because it's a medium armor, not a heavy. And heavy armor is what I swear by pretty much these days. But you guys do need to go into veteran dungeons to get the helmets for the monster sets, otherwise you'll not be able to use them, which is a bit of a grind, but it's worth it. And as long as you research the dungeons first, then you're going to find the right monster sets. You're not going to find one you don't want, because veteran dungeons do take a lot of time. But yes guys, thank you for watching this video. Hopefully this did help you out. I will be doing a video on my healer, and I will be doing a video on my warden as well, which will be coming out very soon. So thank you guys for watching the video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification button below to make sure you get future videos. I will be streaming this week, so you guys will know. I might be streaming, sorry, I won't be streaming today, but I will be streaming Wednesday and Friday. So hopefully catch you guys then, and I'll see you very soon. My name's been Northy33. Catch you later.